One, it's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Hope you had a nice weekend, or maybe it's extended onto today, which is a federal holiday, not a state holiday, a federal holiday. So if you're a postal worker, or if you're one of those federal workers whose jobs are on the cutting block because the civil service is going to change because you're going to have to take a loyalty oath rather than show that you are competent to do your job. I mean, that's the crazy thing. I wonder if people really got that. You know, when people were talking about Project 2025, which Trump denied during the campaign, but now everyone's saying, yeah, that's the agenda. So, I mean, it's going to impact things like whether, who's a federal worker, who's not. Today's a federal holiday. It gives us time to pause and think about the government, think about our veterans. It's Veterans Day today. And I just want to say that I have been appointed the poet laureate of my small town. And I have a poem about the veterans. I'll read a tiny part today. And it really is to remind us about this day and what it means. I mean, we can recall the glory of our veterans, but this is for veterans living and dead and those still serving. And it's a kind of, I found it wasn't as celebratory as I had hoped, but it was more somber, thinking about service and what they do and how we as American people respond to their service, which historically has not been so great. So anyway, I'll read from my poem. Let me also say that there's a number of just little things that are getting people upset because what is happening, or what was feared to happen under a Trump administration. We can't call it a regime yet. It's an administration. It seems to be coming to pass. I mean, Trump named Tom Homan, who is a bureaucrat and has served under Obama. And under Obama became the most deportation happy president we've seen in recent memory. And now we got the guy who served under Obama and I believe he served under Trump, but he's back, and he was interviewed by 60 Minutes, and the question that people asked him was, or he was asked, are you concerned about family separation? The idea is that there are a lot of mixed status families where the children are citizens and the parents are undocumented. How did that happen? Well, they came here, they had children, the children here because of the 14th Amendment, the Wong Kim Ark part of the 14th Amendment. He was a Chinese American who went to the Supreme Court and fought for his rights as an American citizen because of birthright citizenship. That was the case of Wong Kim Ark. And because of that, if you are an undocumented immigrant, have a child here, your child is a citizen. So we have mixed status, children, citizens, parents, undocumented. Homan was asked, what about these guys? What about family separation in this situation? And he said, well, I mean, we have a way to deal with that. He was asked, well, what do you mean? Well, we will deport them all. Simple. I mean, you don't have any separation. You have a mother and father, and they have minor children who are citizens. The mother and father are deportable and undocumented. The answer from the ICE guy, he's formerly the ICE guy. He's now the border czar, newly named by Trump. His answer was deport them all. It's so easy, right? It is not going to be so easy. And I asked a Latino friend of mine over the weekend who voted for Trump. He's old enough, smart enough, but apparently not with the foresight and vision. I said, well, what happens when you have these mixed status families? Then what do you do? He said, well, we'll see. Then we'll see if Trump is loyal to his voters or if the voters want to do something like call for the impeachment of Trump. Oh, yeah. Impeach a third time. But it's all like, his vision was the economy, and everyone's vision was the economy was important. That's why you vote. And now when these tough issues come about, then what happens? I think he was just saying, well, essentially, we'll see what happens. But he's giving some leeway for Trump to embrace the Latino voters who backed him. And maybe he won't go as hard. I think that's giving Trump a lot of credit. But anyway, that's one aspect of the immigration game. The other aspect is Stephen Miller, who is one of Trump's key henchmen during his first administration. He's now deputy chief of staff. And that's a sign that he's appointed Miller, who is as hateful as they come. That means the green light is on for the most painful, the most vicious, the most hard-ass immigration enforcement this country has ever seen. I say that this country has ever seen, but in the past, there were some deportations. They tried to deport Filipinos in the 1930s. They actually had self-deportation. And they never quite got around to the full-on deportation like we're seeing now. But the thing that you're seeing with people across the border, typical of what we were seeing in the 20s and 30s, when the Filipinos were coming in as colonized nationals, and there was a real anti-immigrant fervor. In fact, the anti-immigrant fervor was installed in 1924 when the most racist, quota-oriented, the quotas for immigration were set so low. They're eliminated, really. They're like 2%, something like that from Europe. But from Asia, the quota was zero. There were no quotas, but zero. Couldn't have anyone come in. Racist, policies toward immigration. That wasn't taken away till 65. So we're in for a real test of what our country will allow, how we as citizens will respond, if we can respond, and if Trump, because he should be beholden to the Latinos who put him in, if you look at it, he is essentially a lame duck from day one. And meaning he's not looking for another term unless he changes the law. That can happen. But really, he's kind of a lame duck. So everything he wants quickly out on the table, it's out there. And he's got Stephen Miller shepherding things through as the deputy. He's got His he's got his chief of staff, who is his campaign manager, Wiles. She's gonna like try to keep him sort of on a tight enough leash. But the question that everyone has is how far will Trump go? Will he go as far as we fear? And I think, you hope people are dreading this now, right? People, because we have half the country who went the other way. Half the country voted for Harris, and a little more than half voted for Trump. That is a real bipolar nation. And what's going to happen? We'll just have to see. A lot of it's going to be what strikes Trump's fancy that day. You know it's that. I mean, he's surrounded himself with people who have the foresight to really plan these things through. But ultimately it's whatever Trump wants. So we'll see. We'll see. But the early signs now with Tom Homan as the new border czar, I guess they're going to call him, and you have Stephen Miller as the deputy, the number 2. The idea of deportations, mass deportations, inching toward realization. How much, how deep, how painful. The clues that we're hearing look pretty painful. Homan said on 60 Minutes, we'll deport all of them. That's how we'll deal with family separation. Well, that means kids born here who are citizens officially deported. I don't know. In the meantime, if you're an immigrant and you're wondering what the heck, what can I do? There are immigrant lawyers, nonprofits out there who are out there to help and advise you. I got an email from one of the leading Filipino American advocates who said Filipinos who are of mixed status or who are without documents, they should know that they have a right to fight whatever in court. They can't just be rounded up, that things have to be adjudicated. And there are costs involved to rounding up all these people who are suspected of being undocumented. And it's going to cost money. One estimate was about $11,000 per immigrant. So you do the math and you deport 1 million of these. It's a lot of money. Some say it could cost billions of dollars to deal with this. And then you have the people who are employing some of these undocumented people. And the employers are Republican. The employers are people who rely on these workers to pick vegetables, to do the jobs that no one wants. And you want to see prices go up when they can't get laborers or when they have to hire people who demand a higher wage. I mean, you're already seeing that at fast food places, right? People are saying, oh, God, I can't pay, this much for a McDonald's burger. Oh, well, if fast food workers are getting $18, $19 an hour in some places, well, yeah, you're going to pay that much. And then we're not even talking about tariffs, right? We're not even talking about the tariffs that could come. So we are in that period, post-election, into Thanksgiving, into Christmas, when we're contemplating what is to happen, and we wonder if the side that won will have any stitch of compassion at all. And we just are waiting to see, waiting for answers. It's not an easy position to be in, but I choose not to be depressed. I choose, look, I'm an American. I'm an American citizen. We've accepted the election results, but there will be people who will vote, congressmen who are out there who will do what they can to stop or to modify proposals going forward. And as far as people are concerned, it'll be up to us to try to talk to the people, put out views that aren't, I mean, let people know that there are options, not necessarily that we will prevail, but there are options, and it's just part of the process. In America, we disagree, and in America, we should appreciate the loud nature of our disagreement, because that means our democracy is working. In the end, there's a vote. One side wins, we move on until a new majority is formed, which could be a long time. It could be a long time. But think about 1965 and the Southern conservatives who were so against civil rights and what they had to, they were wrong, right? But they're now seeing the pendulum swing the other way. I mean, because we're seeing essentially a reversal of all those things that came up in the 60s. Civil rights, voting rights. And now, I mean, they're having a big climate change meeting, and America's not even going to be a part of it based on what Trump has said. That's the most concerning. I mean, there are issues that we didn't even talk about during the campaign. We were talking about the price of eggs and the price of gas. And if people were really, really on top of things, they would be more concerned about their jobs and their jobs lost to AI. Did we once hear that come up? It was almost like, I mean, there were parallel discussions about AI somewhere else, but in terms of what was important to vote, wasn't AI. And what's going to impact people's ability to keep their jobs, to have jobs, to grow jobs? AI. You'll probably lose your job. Did we hear anything about that? No. Instead, we heard, especially during the football games and the World Series, we saw all those ads about transgender rights. We saw everyone get so up in arms about trans. Oh, Harris is for trans. Well, she's not any more for trans than Donald Trump was, because Donald Trump was under the same laws. But by virtue of these political ads that Donald Trump put out there in this 2024 cycle, they spent nearly $123 million on TV ads referencing transgender athletes. And of course, that was one of those key issues where when I saw that Trump town hall, mothers coming up, is getting up to the podium or getting up to the microphone saying, I don't want my daughters playing against a man. I mean, that's what they voted for. And then Trump said, well, we can solve that. Executive order. And these were motivating issues. More so than the cost of eggs and the cost of democracy. Trans got people's ire up, and everyone admits, hey, look, this is the way it went. This works. Wall Street Journal had a great article the other day. They talked to a 54-year-old, a 54-year-old software developer in Pennsylvania. And he said, they just went from one crazy thing to another. The whole DEI race theory pronouns. This was a Trump supporter, a smart 54-year-old software developer. He was talking about the Democrats. They never saw a need to stop. And this was the wedge. I mean, you want to talk about a defining wedge in the 2024 campaign. This was like the number 2 issue that the Trump ads focused on, trans. And yet, trans people are a micro minority. The trans issue is, among all the issues, not even on the top 10 in terms of real concerns. But in terms of really separating people and being that wedge to break up clusters of voters who say, I don't know, I'm sort of, I'm on this trans. That they knew. That's what did it. And so we had all the polls showing that, people of color, a third of the people of color now voting for Trump. We got uneducated white women. We had white men. When I say uneducated, I mean college educated. Don't mean to call them uneducated, but this is our landscape. And so it's the trans issue, it's the immigrant issue, it's always the identity issues that polarize and that become wedges. They worked this time around, and now we're dealing with the fallout in terms of how will the winners show any compassion at all, or will they just go forward and say, we've got a mandate? They don't. It's not a mandate. We have a mandate to do what we will. They don't. But this is where grassroots activism, talking to your friends, talking to your congressman, it's harder and not as effective when you have fewer people who are, you have a lot more people to persuade than you did. You have fewer people on your side. And you have more people just hanging on with Trump because if they can hang on 2 years, 4 years, then their jobs are secure. And I'm afraid it's going to be that kind of defensive struggle all the way through. No offense. There was never any offense when, they have the Senate, but not the House. And they didn't have the Supreme Court. Now, the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, all Republican. It's going to be much tougher to get anything done. But you got to let your voice heard. That's going to be the way it goes. And, people who've observed politics for a long time, we've seen the ebb and flow. But I don't think it's really ever been this bad for Democrats. And this critical, considering all the things that are out there now in terms of, foreign affairs, Ukraine, Middle East, China, the environment, climate change, right? And then you have all the things happening, domestically. This is maybe the worst time to be in this kind of situation. But this is our world. This is the way things are. And we're all Americans. So we are going to carry on, right? You have to. No one's saying give up. No one's saying that's it, they won. And notice I didn't talk about, well, what does this mean? I call Trump a lame duck because he has one term. But what if he says, hey, this is going so well, I think I deserve a third term. And then he tries to change the law, in terms of limits on the presidency. He could do that. Or he says, why just change it for one term? Why not be president for life? We've got things set up already. And now he's got voters trained. As long as he answers your questions, Price of gas, price of eggs. Give people free eggs. Give people free gas. I guess that'll be his ploy. What I find amusing is that you don't see any real voices speaking up to Trump. Hakeem Jeffries, not really, not yet. He doesn't know what he's going to be yet because the race for control of the House is still pending, but it looks close for the Republicans. Kudos to Ruben Gallego, who won his race against Kari Lake. Kari Lake was seen as the hot Trump, person who was going to change things in the Senate. But Gallego won Arizona, beat her out by a few points. John Tester up in Montana, that was a surprise. They knew he was going to have a hard time, but he employed the same, let's talk about our people. And he was true to Montanans, tried to get away from that national thing, but he lost. So that's a shame, but at least Ruben Gallego won. Here's the thing about Ruben Gallego. He is kind of the ideal, right? The ideal left-wing affirmative action type, right? Went to Harvard. He's got a great story, tells it well. He deserves what he's got. Now, ordinarily that story this time around did not work. You got to prove that you can do something. And actually, he has a good record in the House. So that was a positive thing. He was able to maintain the story of here I am. And I think it's because of the way he campaigned. He campaigned in rodeos and local places. He let people see him. He went to the people. But he is an example of post-2024 Democratic success. Beating back Kari Lake. In the Senate, Kari Lake was just a neophyte TV anchor. She was, Trump, blessed by Trump, because, Trump likes good-looking former TV anchors who run for politics, for political office. But people saw through Kari Lake, and they gave their vote to Ruben Gallego. And I think he's the example going forward of how minority politicians need to look at running. It used to be they could just go back and they can rely on their ethnic story. They can rely on who they are. Now they got to rely on what they've done. They've got to rely on the record. They got to show people that, hey, I did this, I did that, look at all the things I did. What did Kari Lake do? She turned right to the anchor girl and left to the sports guy and said, good night, thanks for watching the evening news. His experience paid off. And really, Ruben Gallego, given the current climate, I'd look to him as the future in terms of Democratic politics. I mean, he was in the spotlight now, and he passed. But some others didn't. Sherrod Brown, Ohio. John Tester, Montana. It's tough. I'd also, as an Asian American, I'd look to Andy Kim. I think he was more of the Democrats when they got together and said he's the guy, but he had to run against Menendez. And I think he was helped by the fact that, Menendez had his legal issues. Andy Kim was there, served in the House. You got to show what you've done. And he did. He wasn't just, hey, I'm an Asian American guy. We're beyond that now. Notice Kamala Harris didn't even say, I'm an Asian American, I'm black. Although she did. first HBCU president. I mean, she played it up to a point. She really did. But not the Asian part, the HBCU part. And people still wanted to know, what are you going to do for me? Well, what am I getting? And so that's kind of an interesting thing about Harris. I did a piece talking about London Breed. London Breed lost, the mayor of San Francisco lost to Lurie. And it was close, but London Breed had, in the New York Times, I was surprised when I saw it. Her last final pitch before the election was, I've lived through the struggles of San Francisco. Look, my mom was an addict. I did this. It was all about her, what she'd overcome. And that's great. In the old days, that would have been enough. But in these days, in these times, the meritocrats want to see more. The meritocrats want to see that you've done something. And that's why London Breed wasn't voted back in. It wasn't that she was black. It wasn't that she was, they like that. Hey, I applaud you for surviving this. But like I said, it would have been enough 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Now, we got you in there. What have you done for us? And that's the kind of hard truth that people of color who are politicians or people of color who are competing for jobs, competing for places in admissions, that's what we're facing now. And that is kind of diversity 2.0, affirmative action 2.0. Well, there's no affirmative action. That's just the way people look at this. And here's the other thing. Your competition for chief victim and chief grievant now can be a white person like Donald Trump. And that is the biggest change after 2024. All right, so I think that's it for today. I try to keep these things short so that you watch. You can also check it out on patreon.com/Emil Amok, on YouTube at Emil Amok1. And I said I was going to do my Veterans Day poem. And I'm going to do an excerpt, not the whole thing, because it's 3 poems, and I'm going to read the middle poem because it's the most Filipino. It's about Filipino veterans, and not the Filipino veterans that we're used to heralding. So in my small town, there's a wall and it has names. So I say, on the wall, there's Reynolds, Rodriguez, Smith, Mulder, Von Prague, Netherton. Who is your veteran? When did they fight? The first big war that didn't end all wars. The second, the great one. The big and little ones oft forgotten. Where did they serve? In Asia, Europe, the Middle East. Young, old, did yours survive? Did we remember them when they were alive? Or did they come back to the standard cold shoulder? Speak all their names now, before it's over. Ernie Mabalan, Filipino guerrilla, fought off the enemy with a slingshot. FDR offered citizenship to fight beside U.S. GIs. His service ended with the regular army. Returned to live and start a family, worked the fields in the Central Valley. Honors came posthumously in 2017. to all Filipino vets like Mabalan, winners of a Congressional Gold Medal. James Robert Amok, a colonized Filipino, drafted into battle in World War II. World War I. In France, he won the Croix de Guerre. He ran amok for America. On this day, we honor them all. My veterans, yours, our veterans, whose service allow us our beliefs, our actions, our freedoms. We remember them all, not just names on the wall. Their mission, their lives, their duty. Walls normally divide, but not a veteran's wall, where our patriotic grief commingles. So that's one of the 3 Veterans Day poems that I wrote to honor our veterans. And I'll read the rest of them tomorrow. Because this is a weird day, you know. Some of us get the day off, some of us don't. And we really should all get the day off. Because we need to remember these guys. We need to remember these guys. And gals. The ones who serve, the ones who continue to serve. It's important. And there's nothing like a Veterans Day that really unites us all, no matter where we are, you know, on the political landscape. We are united. I mean, even the pacifists. You could be a pacifist and still honor the vets. You know, we don't agree with war. We don't agree with war as a solution. But darn it, we believe in our men. And that's true. I mean, this is the kind of political, the political dance that we find ourselves in. You know, it's always a dance, no matter what issue. We try to find that common ground where we can dance and not step on each other's feet. It's harder than you think. But I think one of the things that will help is if we start talking to each other and stop the vitriol. Usually we see that on the part of the winners. But, you know, they're coming on with all these appointments and all these things. Yeah, they won, but it's like we see some of the plans, and I wonder if everyone who voted understood what really was at stake. And we'll find out. We'll find out. So that's our show for today. Hey, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You need a little laughter yoga? I'm a certified laughter yogi. I am. And go to Emil Amok's Takeout 785. We do a little bit there. I won't do it for every show because sometimes you feel like, no, you should laugh. Intentional laughter. The intentional laughter. It works. It's like, just think of me and say, a minute for work. It works. You say, Emil, this kind of crackpot. No, laughter yoga is a thing. I studied with the founder, Dr. Katarian, Dr. Madan Katarian. He's in Bombay. He taught me all I know. Do that for a minute for world peace. It works. It really works. Gets the endorphins going, the oxytocin, everything, the blood flowing, the oxygenation. You are energized to take on whatever you need to take on. It does work. Let me mention before we go, October 18th, a week from today, October 18th in San Francisco, at the Marsh, 1062 Valencia Street, I will be performing a 20-minute excerpt from my next show. I think it's called Amok Monologue 69. It'll be fun. It's fun. And I talk about the election. Why not? I debuted a portion of it on election eve, and a lot has transpired since the election. So I got a lot to say. Check it out. If you're watching on your screen here, go to themarsh.org/Monday-night-marsh-stream. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of words, but you could do it. https:// themarsh.org/Monday-night-marsh-stream and find out how to get tickets. 7 o'clock, Monday the 18th, a week from today. And it's at the Marsh. Proceeds go to the Marsh because, I love the Marsh. I love them. Give me a space, get to play. They deserve it. See what I got cooking that I'm going to do in 2025. I'm going to go to New York, and maybe I'll do a little bit in New York. I think the New Yorken's open. I'm going to the New Yorken. So 20 minutes, my 20-minute version. I did a 1 hour show that I'm going to do later on in the year in Fresno and a couple other places. But it should be fun on the 18th at the Marsh in San Francisco. Okay. And now we really are going to go. We really are going to go. We really are. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for this is the public square. This is, if you weren't here with me now watching live, I would probably be out in the middle somewhere, out in the rain. It's raining here. Maybe where you are, it's nicer, but I'd be out talking. This is so much easier. It is, it is. It is. It's so much easier. Yeah. In the grand tradition of the regular old style talk shows, the Gene Shepherds. Oh, I didn't grow up in New York, but I love Gene Shepard. I knew who he was. He was a monologist on the radio. He would just get on and he would talk. And I love Gene Shepard. And Christmas Story, that Gene Shepard, same Gene Shepard. But there's very few places where you can do the monologue. But this is a radio monologue. And some people say, hey, I've discovered your little talks, and I play them at night on YouTube, and I fall asleep. Yeah. Look, however it works for you, however it works. Sometimes the subconscious will get all the things in different ways. Not to say you have to be fully awake, in other words. And you can just listen to the audio. The audio. The radio version, essentially. Anyway, we'll leave you with this meditation. The loving kindness, because we want to show some love, right? Want to show some love. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Emil, Amok to you. Till next time. Mahal.